We're bringing our guest for the hour, and I'm so glad she picked the right day, Leigh Richardson of the Brain Performance Center in Dallas. I've actually been to your office, your old office at one time, and
that's right. We put a cap on your head, and we saw how crazy those brain waves look.
I love her, but she's being truthful.
And after last night, they might be even a little crazier today.
They will. They probably are, even though I'm not triggered by anything. I'm very peaceful right now. But look, first of all, we'll get into kind of what you could be dealing with right now post-election, but let's kind of do an overview of exactly the Brain Performance Center and what you guys do there.
So what we do there, everything you do, you don't do, how well you do it, it all depends on how that brain is working, how those neurons and dendrites are wiring away, how the power is going, how it's sharing information, the timing, all of that impacts how you feel, how you act, and what you think. So what we do at the Brain Performance Center is we look at creating change, regulation in the brain without using medication.
And so I've been to your office, and I had that little cap on my head. It was fun.
It has a little note.
Yes,
on
it does. There's a little gel.
Okay, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of little gel. You put some gel in there.
It's that gel that picks up the electrical activity. Good memory.
And you did find electrical activity in Brian's head, right?
There was more going on in Brian's head.
Yeah, she's not lying on that. Okay, and so people come to you because of what?
People come for a number of reasons. I would say the three major reasons they come is this time of year, anxiety, depression, and ADHD. And honestly, this brain is all networks and hubs. So if you've got some anxiety, you've got a little depression. If you've got some ADHD, you probably have some anxiety or depression. It's very frustrating when you have to work 3 times harder than anybody else, and you're still the last one finished. So those are the 3 biggest things that they come from. People with autism, addiction, OCD, that's probably the second layer.
Mm-hmm. Are you finding that more and more people, like kids, are coming to you? I mean, over the you've been doing this for a long time, so.
I have been doing it for a long time, and what I'm finding, more and more adults are coming. And when I first started off, kids were probably 70% of my business. Right now, adults are probably 70% of my business because adults have been the route, well, try the medication, take the happy pill.
Mm-hmm.
They've tried that, and a lot of times they find not only doesn't work, but then I have this symptom, I have this too. And the answer is don't worry, take this. And they're to a point where it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah, we're over-medicating.
Yeah.
Big time in this country. Leigh Richardson's our guest, Brain Performance Center in Dallas. So with all of, we talked before the show, obviously the elections, but I mean, and you got the holidays coming up. But don't you think life in general is just even with social media, and we're bombarded with information and news and emotions and, just all of the negativity that's in the world, that is taxing on people's.
It's very taxing on people.
Yeah.
And with social media, used to, you could get bullied by one person.
Right.
Now they put it on social media and you can be bullied by 90 people. How embarrassing is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And is that one of the reasons why kids come into you? Is that one of them?
That is one of them.
Yeah.
And, that whole social media, that has made us a comparative society. And anytime you compare, what are you looking for? Winner? Loser?
Mm-hmm.
Better? Not so good? And with social media, we compare our dress.
We do.
Lord, we compare what we eat.
Yes, we do. I know. So I'm real curious to walk me through, how do you treat someone without medication? Like, what's that process about?
So it all starts, and you remember I stuck that cap on your head, and I filled all those little sensors full of gel, and I recorded eyes open and eyes closed. And what I'm looking for some state changes when your eyes close. But I go through that data and I pick out the good stuff. And what the good stuff is artifact free. Do you remember when you blinked your eyes and the frontal lobes, those brainwaves went up and down?
Mm-hmm.
Or when you grit your teeth? All that's muscle artifacts. So you take that out, you take the good stuff, and you compare it to a normative database. And that gives me a brain map. And it's actually, very colorful. And it's based on the bell-shaped curve. 66% of the people are 1 standard deviation from the norm. So this will show me how your brain is at 1 standard deviation out of balance, 2, or 3. And really, it doesn't matter to me if it's overregulated or underregulated. It's dysregulated. It's out of balance. And then I'll look at the brain another way with LENS, which is low energy neurofeedback. And what I'll do is I'll take a little sensor, and this one doesn't have gel, it has conductive paste. But I'll move that around your head. Yeah, it's a little stickier, you know. The gel's a little slicker. But I'll move that around, and I'll send out a very low-level energy. And, man, it's less energy than you get, you know, when you open that refrigerator and you stick your head in. It's much less energy than that. So it's very safe. But what it looks at is, can that brain respond to it, or is that brain just stuck? Have you ever felt like your brain was stuck?
Yesterday, I felt like I couldn't put 2 sentences together. Not making this up. Couldn't. Just like it was like every other word would come out.
And that happens to all of us, you know. There's 3 things that'll put our brain into a dysregulated state. 1 is genetics.
Okay,
Brain waves are very genetic. 2 is physical trauma. And we were talking earlier, somebody's son just hit their head and had a concussion. If you had a sibling, you've hit your head. If you ever learned how to ride a bicycle, you've hit your head. And the 3rd thing is emotional trauma. And unfortunately, the dog dies, you know, friends move away, parent families change. We all experience emotional trauma on some level. And what that does from any of those 3 sources, it reduces the neuroplasticity in the brain. And that's what LENS is looking at. You know, bounce some energy in there and see, can the brain absorb it, or is the brain hyper or hyposuppressed? So that's another way for me to look at how the brain works. And then I'll do a test on the computer that looks at thinking, feeling, emotion, and self-regulation. And then we, you know, conversations, and I come up with a treatment plan. And that treatment plan does not include medication. A lot of times people are on medication, and my response to that is, whoever puts you on it needs to be the one who takes you off of it, not me.
Not you. All right, Leigh Richardson's in the studio, Brain Performance Center. Well, I need to get you hooked up with that machine. You're a pretty smart guy.
I would be mortified to see what that looks
mortified. All right, we'll take a break, come back. We're going to talk post-elections, and maybe someone in your office is stressed out, depressed, anxiety. We got the holidays coming up. We got a change of season, lack of sleep, no sunshine. Oh my goodness, I'm going crazy. That's probably true. We'll talk about that when we come back. I've got the sun behind me. There you go. 3:20. Back on this Wednesday, post-election. Welcome everybody on Facebook Live that is watching us right now. Leigh Richardson's in the studio. Brain Performance Center of Dallas is here. And we're talking about, well, if you've been triggered, if you've got some post-election stress, depression, anxiety, where do you go from here? And, of course, we joke a lot about people being triggered in our society for whatever reason. I mean, you could, like you said, you can have multiple deaths in your family. Heck, I had 4 people in my life in 1 week pass away. 4 people. Now, I wasn't triggered. I didn't go into any kind of deep depression because I've got some spiritual guidance there. So I was able to put all my trust and faith, you know, with the Lord Jesus Christ. So that kind of calmed me down. But a lot of people have anxiety. If people are waking up this morning and they found out their candidate did not win, and they've got maybe they got vested energy into a candidate, and they find out all of a sudden their identity has been stripped away, that they're no longer they can still be the Beto supporter, but your candidate did not win. Are you finding that people are depressed or having anxiety over this?
Absolutely. You know, some people put so much of their identity into that candidate. That's what I believe in. That's what I value. And when they find out that what they believe in and what they value isn't going to be the newest thing, then they take a hit. I'm a loser. You know, it's not just that Beto didn't win, but I didn't win, and they take it personal. I started my day this morning with a guy coming in and say, gee, how many days do you think I can leave those signs in my front yard? You know, because...
Do they charge for those signs, by the way? Maybe this is a financial investment.
Yeah,
you know?
What's your cost per thousand?
Yeah, what's your cost per 1,000?
But you're going to know. I said, I don't know, but eventually, man, you're going to have to take them down,
Yeah, you got to take them down. So what are you telling people? How do you get over a post-election disappointment?
Well, I think that the way that you get over any it's emotional.
Emotion.
There is more emotion in this election this year than I have ever seen. And, you need to take check. If you are so depressed that you can't get out of bed and go to work today because your candidate didn't win, you need to talk about that.
They need to be seeing you.
Yes,
right
they
now.
do.
Yeah.
Or they need to get up, put their shoes on, and head to the gym. Anytime you get out, you exercise, that releases endorphins, that makes you feel better. You need to be doing those kinds of things instead of laying in bed saying, I wonder if Uber delivers donuts.
Well, let me ask you another question, because this is what I've done when I want to break away from the political news spectrum, is I simply just stop watching the news or stop being on social media, because social media is a continuous just feed of opinions. And if you find various people on your feed have different opinions, and you guys bush, and then the comment section looks like a WWE cage match. Everyone's got each other in a headlock. I mean, that just stop reading it.
And that is an excellent point, because once we start reading that, it does a number on the brain. The brain's like, oh yeah, I like that. I like knowing what's going on every single minute. And then those little nerve cells, that intensity increases and the quantity increases. And those little nerve cells, they start to get a little confused, Yeah, I like that, but I want that. I want that continuous feed. And then it turns to, I need it. I need to know. And man, when you hit that need button, turn it off.
Yeah. Leigh Richardson's our guest, Brain Performance Center of Dallas, talking about anxiety, stress. And then on top of this, we're in the holiday season. So on top of all the stress that someone might have financially, maybe vacation, or it's the end of the year. My goodness, it's been a donkey kick of a year work-wise for you. Now you've got the election on top of that. So what are you seeing outside of that?
Well, you think about the little things. Oh my gosh, the holidays are coming up. This is the first holiday season that we've been a couple. Whose house are we going to go to? Whose house are we going to go to first? Think about the financial cost of just getting there. And a lot of people have trouble flying. They have some fear associated with that. I've had one lady say...
It's called TSA.
It's called what?
Sorry, it's called TSA.
Yeah, it is. But, I've heard one lady say, if one person makes a comment about my weight at Thanksgiving dinner, I'm getting up and I'm leaving.
Do you think we've become way too sensitive? I saw something yesterday. I forgot the headline. We've gotten to the point where you can't even
I think we have gotten.
We're dying to be offended in this country.
I think that we have, and I think that's because goes back to social media. We have that constant stream of input. If you just get a little something that you hear that doesn't set quite right, you can let it go. But if you're getting it all day long, the next one that comes in, bam, can't deal with that.
Yeah.
So it's basically sensory overload at that point. So
absolutely,
it's the culmination of all of it that at some point where you wouldn't have cared because it's been spread out for so long now. It's just the intensity of always having that.
Think about the Cowboy Stadium back a couple of years ago when we were doing well. You would walk in there, and my brain just felt like it was vibrating. The noise was so loud, the energy in the air. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk sports for a second.
Okay.
How many people come to see you that are suffering real depression because the Dallas Cowboys suck, for lack of a better term? I mean,
you handled that really well.
Because people make sports a big part of their lives.
Well, they do, particularly if you're a high school player or a college player, and you that's your identity. Oh my gosh, I went to the same school. I went to Highland Park High School as he did, and that's not going so well. But people that come in from depression, it's part of life. And if that's your identity, if you're gambling, if you're living large with the dollars and your team's not winning.
So then you combine the high school sports with the gambling side. Now you've got something really worked out, right?
Yeah. That's a real healthy balance.
Yeah, that's a healthy balance. And you got the kids' college fund, everything else getting wagered away. Let me ask you a question. With gambling, I mean, is people Come in.
Gambling is an addiction. And I look at addiction, whether it's gambling or sex or food. It used to be alcohol, but addiction's changed. We're more addicted now to our cell phones and that social media.
Mm-hmm.
Those things that give us pleasure. Gambling gives you pleasure when you win.
Mm-hmm.
But I view that as addiction, and it's a brain disease. Is it a lot of bad choices? Oh, yeah. But it's more than that.
Yeah, it's more than that.
So is there kind of that delineation when you're looking at addiction because there's such a wide variety now? It goes from a standpoint of saying these were bad decisions that got you to the point, but at some point that point happens and you're no longer in control of those decisions. So when you're looking at it, are you trying to bring them back into a position where they do have control over, or is it a managed environment?
Well, it's really a little of both. What I'm trying to do is put that brain back into a regulated state. And, of course, drugs, alcohol, they change the way things are working up there. Mm-hmm. Just like when you hit your head, it does.
Mm-hmm.
But it's with neurofeedback, the type of neurofeedback that I do, the whole brain training, you're teaching that brain how to get into a regulated state. There's an addiction network in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, people that usually addiction, in my opinion, it starts with some level of self-medicating. And is that from anxiety, or is that from frustration or depression? It all starts with something. So understanding what's driving the bus allows you to stop it.
All right. So what's driving the bus? Website for you.
The website is www.thebrainperformancecenter.com.
There you go. We'll take a break, come back, and we'll get a little bit more, advice. We'll talk about diet. Does diet have anything to do with depression?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for a better state of mind and exercise, sex. I just say turn off social media, which I'm about to do that right now. It is 3:29. Goodbye on 6:20 a.m. KEXB, your experts in business. Be right back. All right, that is the song RX by Theory of a Dead Man, which, by the way, was nominated for several awards, and it addresses the very topic that we're talking about today, and that is the over-medication of people in our society, kids, adults, parents, teachers, everybody.
I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and addiction was a keynote speaker on 2 days. Mm-hmm. And I heard one speaker say, we all know about the opioid. We know about that. But do you know what the new addiction is? What? And I sat up, and I'm like, what? Adderall.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't doubt that.
I was subscribed to Adderall at one point, and I had it. Long story short, did you know that Adderall can inflame the prostate?
No.
Yes, it's one of the side effects. And so when I didn't urinate for 3 days, and I called my doctor, and he said, "Why aren't you at the hospital right now?" And so I ran, and once they did what they had to do to, fix things, we were in the kind of the information gathering meeting, and he said, "We're going over these prescriptions." I'm like, "No, I don't take anything." He's like, "What? Actually, I just started taking Adderall." And he got on his computer and goes, "Yep, side effects, it can inflame the prostate." So I took that, I threw it away, which I found out never throw prescription drugs away. It's not the proper way to dispose of those things.
No.
But
fish tank?
Maybe. Fish tank. That's just mean. But how quickly, I was put on Adderall, to focus. Are you kidding me? Like, that's the worst thing you give somebody to focus.
And, that's all most doctors are trained in is pharmacology. Mm-hmm. That's what we've put our dollars. That's where our research goes. It's all behind what drug will work the best for you. And that's just doesn't register in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just playing a little bit of that because I have to fade it in and out because he does drop an F-bomb somewhere there, and I don't want to hit that on the air. But, we see it down for the kids.
The free bomb, right?
The free bomb. Yeah, he talks about getting free medicine. Yeah, that's it. But you got the kids. You've got stressed out executives.
Absolutely.
You got white collar, like CEO level and executives that are just.
They can't sleep. And a lot of what people are given for sleep are things that have been used for a variety of things like seizures. I mean, we're using
Give somebody something to go to sleep with Caesar.
What
we're
does that
using
stuff?
medication, and maybe it's because we're learning more about what it's effective with. But think about the older population. You know, they go in, and instead of putting our focus on fall prevention, we're focused on giving them something to keep them alert and awake, a stimulant.
Leigh Richardson's our guest. Brain Performance Center of Dallas is her company. We're talking about ways to kind of handle the stress and anxiety. And I think in a world that we live in where more and more people your time's maxed out, everyone's stressed out. There's not enough hours in the day to get things done. There's pressure, economic pressure, retirement. It's all. How much does money play a part of this?
Well, people always say money can't buy happiness. And I agree with that, but money can take the level of stress down. And I see that in families. Families that can afford to get the proper care and to work through their issues without having to just take the first medication that's given to them. I think there's too much emphasis put on money. And I think that because we are with our social media, we compare, look at my new car, look at my new dress. So I do think there's too much emphasis put on money, but bottom line is money talks.
That's true. Money can at least buy you the capabilities to go get the
It
treatment.
can open
right?
some doors.
It opens some doors.
Can't buy you happiness.
Can't. Okay, so how long is a typical treatment with you guys?
Typically, someone will come in, and on the average, they will do 20 sessions. Not some do less, some do more. It depends on what their treatment goals are, what they want to achieve and accomplish. Some people, on a minimum, I would say most people will do 10 sessions. And it's the easy part is creating change in the brain. That's easy. The hard part is getting the brain to hold the change. And that comes with repetition. It's a learning process, teaching that brain how to get into a regulated state.
How much is spirituality play a part in being happy and dealing with stress?
I think it plays a big part. I believe we all have to believe in something. And I don't care if it's God or Buddha or Allah. I think we all have to believe in a higher power. We have to have something that we can pray. And I pray. Some other people may chant. But you have to have something to believe in.
When I meet somebody that absolutely thinks there is no creator of any of this is just all of a sudden magically appeared, and that when you die, you just go in the ground and that's the end of your existence. I literally think to myself, that is a sad way to look at the world.
I agree.
It's just a sad way to look at the world because no wonder there's so much depression in the world.
But then you start thinking, okay, so if I was a really good person, do I come back a little higher up on the food chain? Or if I was a really bad person, do I come back as an animal? I've heard people come at it with so many different philosophies.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's talk about gender confusion. I think it's called confusion. There was a story I got tangled up with Channel 8 here a couple weeks ago, or about last week, about they had drag queens that were reading to school kids in libraries. And it was like the latest, quote, trend. And I thought to myself, well, how is that a trend? Do you have like 2 or 3 parents going, yeah, we want to do it? But what my point was, they asked what your thoughts were on it. I said, well, it kind of depends on how old these kids are. But if you're reading to kids in school, then probably they're, kindergarten, first, second.
They have to be 5 or 6.
They got to be 5 or 6, right? So I know if I would be a little confused if I saw a man dressed up like a woman and kind of going, I guess what I'm getting to is I think as a society we have tried to dissolve the essence of a man and a woman. And we try to...
Well, think about what we did with the battle on marriage. The Bible states marriage is a man and a woman.
Well, think about this for a second. Our country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, okay? And I feel like what the left does is try to deconstruct the construction of how our country was put together in the first place, and that is through Judeo-Christian principles. Man, woman, right, wrong, good, evil. And the left wants to completely deconstruct that because if we can break up what is defined as a marriage between a man and a woman or a gender, then anything goes. And so I must wonder, do you see a lot of issues when it comes to gender confusion with kids?
I have seen some. I've worked in that LG community. I guess now it's the LGBTQIA. There's a lot. There's a T in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's some stuff.
But it is confusing. And I think part of that confusion comes from lack of acceptance for who you basically are. You're struggling to find out who you are and what you want to be, and you're not getting any support and acceptance. So that's more confusing.
I really pray for people that genuinely are confused about what sex they are. That has got to be the most frustrating thing. And look, I grew up, my sister was a lesbian. I mean, she passed away years ago, but my sister was a lesbian. I grew up knowing that she was. I had no ill feelings towards that. I had no criticism toward that. I never treated her any different than what she just was, right?
She was your sister.
She was just my sister. But I think that kids putting some of this in their heads so early, almost wanting them to cross over and become another gender, is just not right. If you generally don't know who you are, I feel sorry for you. That's something that we should all hope someone gets help on. But I don't think we should actively introduce some type of theory of, well, if you feel like a woman, you can be a woman. If you feel like a man, be a man. And I just don't think that's natural.
I don't think a young child can even grasp that.
I don't think so either.
Their brain on a development.
Hell, I was 18. I didn't even know how to. I mean, come on. I didn't have a girlfriend forever. I should have been confused a long time ago.
It is confusing.
It is confusing.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. All right. Marriage. Oh, that's another issue. Can we talk about marriage when we come back and how much stress is involved in that?
Oh.
How much more time we got left in this show? Here we go into the next program, please. 344. Leigh Richardson is our guest, Brain Performance Center. When we come right back, marriage. What are we all stressed about? Just right? Should be easy. Not so much.
.620 AM, KEXB. Experts in business in North Texas.
All right. We are back talking to Leigh Richardson of the Brain Performance Center here in Dallas, talking about, how to deal with depression, anxiety, hopelessness. And there's, of course, a lot of things in the media that we see that would lead people down that path. It could be post-election. It could be job layoffs. It could be the holiday season. It could be getting with family members when you think about it. I mean, this is time when you go see that cousin that you don't get along with because you don't like their posts on Facebook and you stay friends with them, but you don't like any of it. How do you deal with all of that? We talked a little bit about kids and sex and just what they deal with. I really think when it comes down to it, and you're professional, you know better that we should just live our lives and just get engaged in something other than yourself.
Find purpose. Have a reason to get up in the morning. And it's not, I don't get up to turn on my social media stream. I get up to take my dogs for a walk and, find purpose, engage, be real.
Be real. Yeah.
And that requires a commitment. That requires energy. One of my commitments is I'm going to go to the gym every day. And I do that at 5:45 in the morning.
God bless you.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either. It's about when I go. I mean, I don't go that quite. I used to go that quite early. But exercise is good for you, right? Healthy.
It's very healthy. I mean, exercise, that releases those endorphins. That makes us feel better. When we feel better, we're more alert. We have more energy. You're right. Engaging in life is a way to really take your game up to the next level. Yeah. How about going to bed at the same time?
Oh.
Or getting up at the same time?
Oh. Well, getting up at the same time happens. It's going to bed at the same time that's usually a problem.
Yeah.
And sleep is the foundation of how everything works.
No
Sleep and nutrition, you are what you eat.
Yeah. We've had somebody, Dr. Jacob Rosenstein that comes on the show, and we talk about sleep all the time, and we talk about nutrition and diet and exercise. And if you don't have those things in your life, you're when you sleep is when the plaque is processed in the brain, and
that's when those little glial cells come out and like little scrubbing bubbles. They clean up all those toxic waste. And if you're not sleeping, that's not happening.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, by the way.
Yeah. See little Pac-Mans running around.
I do. I see a bunch of little Pac-Mans running around, like walk, 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 walk.
Well, don't let that keep you up at night.
Maybe it
Be an
does.
interesting dream tonight.
It will be. Let's talk about dreams real quickly. Do people come to you about having nightmares or just
Oh,
depression?
absolutely.
Really?
Nightmares is something that, some people call it night terror. Some
Terror.
people call it nightmares. The first time I heard night terror was I was in grad school, and I was kind of like, took a double breath because I'd never thought of it that way. I'd never experienced nightmares to the degree that it was a terror. But people do, particularly people that have coming off of an addiction, or people PTSD when there's been a bit trauma involved.
Military people, I can imagine what they deal with, and they come back over here in society,
And it's still in all of that emotional trauma. Okay, you're over there, and you come back, and you're so happy you're home, your family's here, you've got a job, and you're just going to let go of all that. And emotional trauma lives in the subconscious part of the brain, down in the amygdala, and it just spins 24/7, and it'll work its way up to the top, and I can't think about that right now, and we'll pop it right down. But don't you worry, it'll be back.
Are married people happier than single people, or vice versa? Do you have any proof on that, or any?
I don't have any proof on that. I have experience, and what my experience and my practice shows is that people that are happily married are happier. But a lot of marriages don't exist of two happy people. And when that's the case, you might be happier if you were single.
I'm letting the silence right here speak volumes.
I'm digesting.
Yeah, I'm letting it all sit in right now. That's a great point, because if you're in a marriage and you're married to someone who's not a happy person, generally not a happy person, you found that out later in life, you are better off a single person than being stuck in a marriage with someone who's unhappy.
Well, if you're married to an unhappy person, you cannot make them happy.
You cannot.
And that is the biggest thing, the hardest thing for people to accept. I'll fix it. I'll make it better. If I just try harder, if I just do this more, I know that, they really like that, I'll fix it. It's not going to happen. Happiness, only one person is in control of happiness. Me. I'm in control of mine, and you're in control of yours.
That's a sound drop right there.
Yes, it is.
Man, we need to pull that and play that over and over on this show.
That'd be the new introduction.
It will be. I actually might have her do some drops on that. So how can people get a hold of you? I know you do private consultations, obviously, right?
Absolutely. There's a form online that you can fill out, and there'll be somebody that will respond to you. You can call the office, 817-500-4863, and ask for a complimentary consultation. That's 30 minutes. I love it when we do that face-to-face, but it can be done on the phone, too.
And you're Preston and
Royal, right in the middle of Dallas.
Oh, I know.
Right off the tow road, right off Central, right off 635.
Wow. Nice. All right. Have you learned a lot, Chris?
I'm digesting some
I
of
am
these,
digesting. I did learn that I'm not triggered by the election. Doesn't really matter a whole lot.
You've let that go. You've
let
moved
that go.
on.
Of course, a
All
bottle
right.
of Jack helped me let that go, too. We didn't talk about alcohol that much, did we?
No, we didn't.
It's really bad for you.
It is
does
bad for you.
Play stuff with your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stay
Well,
away.
too much of anything is really bad for you. Will one drink hurt you? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Can you have one drink?
I can.
Then alcohol's not a problem for
And I feel
you.
like I said earlier, I pray for people that have gender confusion. I really do. And I pray for people who are alcoholics. Because we've had a lot on this show, and I know that is a disease that you just cannot kick without support.
You're right about
drugs
that.
in general. I mean,
Yeah.
my goodness, that's the devil.
But the best thing that you can do for yourself is, there's so many resources out there right now. Just Google self-help books. I heard about one, Love Yourself Until You Love Yourself to Death. There's a girl, Go Wash Your Face.
Yeah, I've seen that's a great book, isn't it?
I haven't read it.
I've heard some great things about that.
I've heard some great things about it. But there's so many out there, and there's so many ebooks that are so reasonable for 99 cents. If you feel like you need some help, get it. You know, go to your library or pull up your computer, get an ebook, talk to a friend, talk to a counselor, talk to a spiritual person in your life. But if you feel like that you're slipping or you feel like you need help, get it.
Get it.
There is nothing wrong with that.
Leigh Richardson's our guest, Brain Performance Center in Dallas. Go check her out. Facebook pages or Instagram?
Absolutely. All of the above.
All the above. Just search
the Brain Performance Center.
Yeah. I need to get back in
LinkedIn.
there. You find out if my results are different now than it was back then. I probably lost some brain cells since the last time we spoke.
That's negative thinking.
That's a
I
negative.
think you've increased your brain
I
power.
take a multivitamin now,
Good.
and I take it's like a brain focus type of thing that I met a guy and he swore up and down this stuff works, so I ordered it on Amazon and I can't remember the name of it, so I can't remember the word.
It's good for
that
memory,
was a
huh?
joke, by the way. That was a total joke. No, but I think supplements and stuff like that's good for you.
Absolutely.
Vitamins. All right, coming up in the next hour, we'll talk a little bit more about the election, talk about the housing market, and how more people are cutting the cord to cable. That and a whole lot more on this post Wednesday. We're not triggered.
No,
No.
life's good.
6:20 a.m. KEXB.